Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to a special edition, a Friday edition of the Weekend Wrap Up Show here on Shelbyville Now. Josh, are you thrown off by this
I'm a
change?
little thrown off. Normally, we're here Saturday morning. We have a conflict Saturday morning, so we're doing it Friday afternoon because why not? It's the internet, and
Exactly. Nothing else happening this afternoon. It's
nothing
fun.
else going on, and you can watch it whenever you want at home. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we dive into what's going on, let's take a break and hear from our sponsor, Dennis Young Insurance.
absolutely.
With the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a rate lock advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency, insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 1988.
All right. David Thomas here with Josh Blevins. And Josh, I know there's not a lot to talk about this week because everything has been built up toward the election, and we're going to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah,
Before we do, I know you had a couple things that have gone on this week you want to talk about.
This is almost, we'll just call this the election preview show. But
Right.
before we get into that, just a couple small things happened this week. We'll just mention them. There was one whole meeting at city and county level. It was the City Historic Zoning Commission meeting on Monday night. I went to that. One of about 5 people at that meeting. Those are tiny meetings. And they approved the demolition of a home at 812 Belmont Avenue, owned by a Mr. Billy Wortham, that I believe is a photographer, they said.
Yes.
He's done a lot of photography in the
I know
area.
Billy, he's been born, raised here. He's
Yeah.
done photography at that location, in the setting there, in the trees and all for years.
For years and years. I guess even from way back, that home has been a problem. I guess there's always been water intrusion into the basement, and it's just gotten to the point that they had pictures at the meeting. Literally, the outside of the house, there's massive cracks running through it. It's not structurally sound
right.
anymore. He's not living in the house anymore. There's also a duplex on the property that's a whole separate structure, which by zoning shouldn't even have happened. There shouldn't have been two
Right.
different, properties on there. So either way, even though it's in the historic zoning district, which is why they had to come to this commission, they approved for them to tear that building down because it's in bad shape, which will just leave the duplex, which will bring that piece of property back into compliance with the zoning for that area. And then there was some talk because there's some multifamily next door and across the street. They may eventually try to turn this into an R4 lot and put some kind of multifamily on it. But,
Right.
The first step was to tear the house down that's no longer livable. So,
Yeah.
it was an easy decision. Again, that Historic Zoning Commission, 3 whole people showed up on the commission. That's a quorum at that one. I think there was me, the planning director, and 2 people in the audience, and that
All
was
right.
it. And that's the whole deal. So now, again, not a busy, important
Josh,
meeting, but
you have turned into a diehard.
I
You're pretty much at every meeting there is.
I gotta confess, I skipped a meeting. There was a beer board meeting in the
You
middle of
missed
the
the
week.
beer board
I
meeting.
didn't go to the
You
beer
got
board.
to be kidding me.
It was one item. It was somebody asking for a beer license. I thought, I can skip that one. I think
Yeah,
so. I did
yeah,
not
yeah.
go to the beer board. So, but as far as meetings, that was it. We knew going into this week that it was going to be a quiet week. It's kind of a weird one, falling where the end of the month and the beginning of the month fell in
Right.
the same week. There's nothing city or county wise that goes on in that week. Thursday we had Halloween. It rained, and I thought, oh man, I bought all this candy. I'm going to have candy left over. We had twice as many kids as we had last Halloween when the weather was good.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'd say 120 to 150 kids probably came to our house. I went through all my good candy first, and then had to go down to start
Yeah.
getting into the crappy candy, and they just kept coming. So yeah, and they started early because of the rain. I think I had kids at 4:30. And I
Wow.
think the last group about 8:30 in the evening. So yeah, it was a good solid evening.
So everybody was fired up wanting your
they were
candy.
fired up wanting the candy.
And you
So-
bought that extra candy so you'd have it left over, but now it's gone.
Well, no, I didn't want leftovers. I bought extra because I expected more this year. I
Oh,
think if the
okay.
weather had been good, I probably would have gone through all of it. I had a neighbor across the neighborhood. They do the full size candy bars.
Oh, wow.
They bought, I think it was 150, and gave
That's
them all
a lot
out.
of money right there.
That's a lot of money, and they gave
Where
them all
was
out.
this house?
This is
Never
Union
mind.
Station. Yeah, we get
It's
some
too
good.
late now.
I do Pez. Kids love the Pez because
Yeah.
nobody gives out Pez anymore. So I go
Wow.
on Amazon and order a few cases of Pez every year, and I went through that. And then I had some full size candy bars, went through that, and then I was down to Ring Pops after that. So.
Well, I didn't hear of any type of foul play last night. It seemed like everything was good.
Well, one quick note off the scanner, not foul play real much, but we had some youngins egged a truck.
Okay, all right.
Somebody's truck got egged, and they called the police, and
Okay.
there's a little bit of that.
Well, that
but,
doesn't count.
that's normal
the
Halloween
That's the trick
shenanigans.
part.
That's the trick
Right.
part of trick or
And
treating.
I noticed that you posted yesterday on our Facebook page about Willow Mount Cemetery closed from dusk to dawn. And was it just coincident that this came out on Halloween?
It was not coincidence. I actually got a phone call from our cemetery director, Ben Chapman. They've been having serious issues at Willow Mount with people going in after hours. They've had damage in there that they've had to repair. It's cost quite a bit of money. That's
Not
their city
just for
cemetery.
Halloween, but just
No,
all the
just
time?
in general. So they've
Wow.
he now has to go every day at dusk and put chains across the two entrances and has to be
Boy,
back
how-
in at sunrise to take the chains back off. And he doesn't even live by the cemetery. So as you can imagine,
Wow.
that's a rough.
So what?
Yeah.
well, it's kind of ironic that happens
But it
on
just
Halloween.
happens on Halloween is when
Yeah.
they brought it up.
A
But
little
yeah,
spooky.
yeah. So and that's why we put that up there. He actually called specifically and asked if we'd put that out there. So if you're not supposed to be at the cemetery after dark. Now, if you go in, you're going to run into a chain because there's a chain across the
Wow.
entrance. So try not to go to the cemetery after dark.
I will have to remember that.
Yeah, I normally don't hang out at the cemetery
I
after
don't-
dark.
I
That's
don't
just
either.
me. But whatever. Apparently, people were. He said they were partying and stuff in there, and
That's
like
crazy.
leaving trash and
Why would
destroying
somebody do that?
headstones. And I don't know. I think kids got to be kids. you
Obviously,
think.
yeah.
Yeah. So, but as far as events and happenings this week, well, we had the big fire at Walmart.
Yeah,
Let's
I was
just-
going to mention that.
yeah,
At Wayback Burgers, right?
Wayback Burger. It lasted. It was about a 20-minute event. It looked like, but you see smoke coming out of Walmart, and you kind of wonder what's going
Yeah.
on. So our fire department was like, I mean, they were right on it. They were
Yeah,
on the scene
yeah.
and they had it out, and people were back shopping in Walmart. 15,
In a few
20
minutes,
minutes
yeah.
after they got kicked out of the
Was
building.
there any
So
smoke damage or anything, or way
I
back
haven't
open?
even.
Or?
I haven't even been back in the building since. I would assume there was a little bit inside, but it obviously wasn't that bad because they let them back.
Yeah.
Immediately back in the building.
Yeah, so everything's
So-
back up and running.
I
There,
think
hopefully.
everything's back up and running there. So, but that gets us to the big one. This is early voting.
Yeah,
The
no,
last day of early voting was yesterday. We've been getting the stats daily. I want to thank Summer Leverett at the
Yes,
election office.
yes.
She, the Secretary of State, puts them out the day after, but she was willing to send this to us. We got stats like 15 minutes after closing every day, and we posted most of them fairly quickly. We had 14,608 people early voted this year. That is within a dozen or two of exactly 50%. So we're right about half of the people have voted. I went back and looked at the stats from the previous presidential election. We had a little over 19,000 total voted in that one, 4,600 of whom voted on election day. So we're like right on the same numbers.
well,
from
we're
4
going.
years
Looks like
ago.
we might be just a little bit down.
Yeah, it's going to depend on where our turnout is on election
Right.
day.
So we're going to need to have 5,000 turnout to
Turnout on
get up
election
to where
day.
4,500. Well, it's close.
I bet
That's
it's
close.
we're
Okay.
we're tracking within like 2% the last
Does
time.
that
they did
surprise you? I mean, there's a lot of hype into this year's presidential election about it being the most important in our lifetimes, which it seems like every election is now.
I
but-
was leaning towards. I was guessing 60 to 70%. Seems like we're going to be closer to the 60 than the 70. So I also thought that 4 years. I mean, in 4 years, a lot of people have moved into Bedford County. I thought we had more registered voters, but you said the numbers of that actually haven't
That's-
shifted a whole
Well,
lot.
it may maybe even a small decrease by the time you take out people that have come off the rolls.
Right. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. At this point, we don't know. Of course, nobody knows. Somewhere hidden inside the machines are the results of early voting. But at this point, just from a statistical and a mathematical standpoint, it's pretty much the local election is probably a done deal because 75% of the people that are
Right.
going to vote have already voted.
You're not
So-
going to, unless something is really skewed on a certain precinct,
right.
which they usually divide out equal to the same amount here.
Yeah.
It's your votes are going to be dispersed out.
Yeah,
very
just
similar. so.
statistical math. I mean, if you got 75% of the numbers in already, unless this comes within
Yeah.
a dozen or so votes, nothing much is going to shift between now and then. We just don't know the result,
So
and they don't put those out.
Our
so.
city council election is pretty much over. Okay, even
Pretty
though
much,
you
yeah.
got that, but you,
Yeah.
statistically, you look at
Statistically,
it,
you're pretty.
that you're probably set.
It's
The
set.
course is set. So
Yeah. So we'll find out Tuesday.
So you got to sit around and wait.
Now it's a lot of sit around and wait, and maybe a little bit of praying. And,
Yeah. Speaking of which, we
Yeah.
will have election coverage here starting at 6:45, right after the Judge Dryden show. We'll start back up at 6:45, and we will live stream and have election returns. What we will do is obviously cover our local election, which there's interest in the city council, and then we have Ward Trace Alderman, and there's some others, and then
those are uncontested,
right? But we know the results. But we'll
Yeah.
give those reports, the official vote count, as we get them. And once that's done, we will keep an eye on the national election. And
Sure.
I'm not going to make any kind of statement here about we're going to cover the presidential election. We will give some numbers out as we get them while we're sitting here, but it's probably going to be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or a month.
The plan is not to sit here overnight and try to.
We would be here. We'd be camped out for days.
Yeah, you're not setting up a tent or anything.
And I'm afraid we're not going to know our presidential outcome that night.
Yeah,
but we will talk about it.
Yeah, very unlikely. And you're going to have. I personally am going to be at the Election Commission office at 7 to feed the results back, and you're going to have a number of, which we want to announce the names, but a number of special guests. We should have several people that are currently sitting in office that are going to be here and just kind of talk about the local election, what's going on. The big thing we're going to be watching, and the thing that we reported the final financials this week, is did all the work that the Better Bedford PAC put into this election, does money equal votes or not? So we put the stats out. They collected $90,000. The PAC did over. They started last year collecting. They've still got $66,000 in the bank, but that means they spent $24,000. So
and then an additional $10,000.
An additional 10. Some of the PAC members went out on their own because the PAC can give money to a candidate, but then you as a person can also write a check to a candidate.
Right.
So a lot of the PAC members wrote checks directly to the candidates that they're supporting. So all told, and we don't know because they didn't declare, there was a bunch of last minute newspaper ads. I got a postcard in the mail myself today. There's radio ads I've heard running now. So rough estimate will be $35,000 plus they spent on, 2 races that last time had a total of, we looked up 1,430 people voted in those 2 wards. So so that's a lot. I would imagine that's significantly more than has been spent on a local city race here in the past.
I don't ever remember. There's never been a PAC really donate anything to a local and to a local election like that.
Yeah, and the last city one that this corresponds to, the 2021. Of the 3 wards that were up, only one of them was even contested. And the incumbent at the time, Miss Pruitt, who actually came to the Historic Zoning Commission meeting the other night, she didn't even really campaign at all from what I heard. So there was basically no money spent in that election. So we'll see. Of that 24,000, they spent $9,000 with the big names in politics up in Nashville, primarily the Ingram Group, to give them consulting and tell them how to do it.
Yep.
So we'll see if the guys in Nashville know how to make the right moves.
Well, when you're talking about a small number, every vote counts.
Oh, sure.
So every vote you get is important.
Yeah.
So you go how much they're spending per vote. Is a lot.
Is a lot per,
Okay, now the question, well, I'm not even going to dive into that. We'll just see how things play out.
We'll see how it plays out on Tuesday night. Yep, we'll be here. You'll be here live. I'll be, and I may drop in depending on how long I'm tied up down there. But that's what we're looking forward to. And other than that, I don't think we had a lot going on this week worth discussing locally. So I think we'll hear from our sponsor maybe one more time. And then we'll look forward to the week ahead.
All right.
So.
With the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a rate lock advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency, insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 1988.
All righty. Welcome back in here. We're going to wind things down. We want to thank Dennis Young Insurance for being our sponsor. Josh, what we got coming up besides the election?
Election's the big one. Tuesday, 9 to 7. We'll be here live on the air starting about 6:45 election night. Thursday morning, Rosenwald Center is having a veterans coffee hour, not just for veterans. If you're out there want to support veterans, they said come on out for that. Coffee, 10 o'clock there. And then Thursday is the only big meeting this week. It'll be a city council study session. That will be the final study session of the current sitting city council. Because I think it turns over in December once everything shakes out. So this will be the current council as it sits. It'll be their final meeting. And other than that, I think we're going to be back here next Saturday. But before then, we'll be back here Tuesday.
Tuesday at 6:45. Join in for our election coverage. We'll be here live until we get things done.
Till we figure out who won, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll